So one of the fastest ways to help someone to age regress, in other words, send them where they're not right now, is to engage the sense of smell. Carol tells me constantly about the smell of fresh-cut grass. She'll be driving home from work, especially in the spring, and she'll go, "Oh, I just love the smell." It reminds me of when I was Now, this is going to sound perhaps a little bit odd, but I'm going to toss it out to you. So Native Americans used 4 plants. Now, we're referencing some of the material in the, whatchamacallit course. Yeah, I love whenever that happens. The medicine wheel course. The 4 plants were cedar, sage, sweetgrass, and tobacco. And they all smell unique. They all have a very positive smell. And what I mean by positive smell is they cause the amygdala in the brain to click forward. It's a pleasurable sensation. On the other hand, if you smell ammonia, that causes it to go backwards. Okay? So, now here's what I want you to keep in mind. Forward and backwards are both not what we want right now. What we want right now is to engage the present moment kinesthetics. So if you want to play with this, one of the things that we've noticed, and this came about by accident, we were teaching a little workshop with about 12 people. This was about 7 years ago. And in this workshop, one of the things that I noticed was that we had people break off into little groups and go off, and there was one group that kept having problems getting this. And one of the things that I noticed was the one guy in the group was wearing Old Spice. I have nothing against Old Spice. My grandma really likes it. However, if we're going to engage smell, okay, smells have a way of taking the brain someplace else. So what we want to do is take the time to disengage, okay, smell that takes us away from the present moment. Now, there's a reason why the Native Americans used those 4 smells. You know, a good tobacco, okay, sweetgrass, sage. Remember the 4th? Whenever we would use those, okay, you know, people would say, "Oh, I use the smoke to help journey." Well, yeah, it's true, okay? What we want to do, though, is avoid having something like a perfume. Because, oh, that makes me think of an old girlfriend. And boom, there I go. Gone. On the other hand, if I'm smelling what's present here, now, okay, and we can use stuff like cedar to remain a little more present. We can use tobacco to remain a little bit more present. Tobacco is a little bit tougher in our culture because of the amount of stuff that goes along with cigarette smoking. But something like cedar or sage or sweetgrass or a real good sandalwood can help us remain present while we're working with the 6-minute exercise. What we don't want to do is put on a whole bunch of perfume or aftershave or whatever and then journey to faraway lands inside of our own brains. What we want to do, the little 6-minute exercise is very, very simple. What we want to do is position the body vertically. In other words, not leaning forward and not leaning back or side to side. Stand or sit comfortably. Okay, don't lie down. Stand or sit comfortably so the spine is relatively vertical. And notice your breathing. Now, if you're noticing your breathing, okay, now here's what happens. Carol and I take a walk, and we go past the hot dog stand, and we go, "Oh, hot dogs." There's a deep breath in, and it happens with the back of the nostrils. What I want you to do is to simply notice that you are breathing and sort of sniff the air with the front of the nostril. Okay, notice the difference. Just allowing yourself to take a deep breath in, and you're noticing the breath with the front of the nostril. Allow the body to shift as needed to allow the breath to go deep into the body. With what we're working with so far, the breath, if you think about it, you know, there are people that have written about remote viewing and stuff and out-of-body travel, so on and so forth, and it's often talked about as if it is flying. Your breath, air, is the key here. So if we're going to engage air in a way that's useful, what we want to do is, again, allow the breath to sink in the body while we're noticing the breath with the tip of the nose. That allows us to become present. And notice the difference in the tempo of this recording as it continues. Just noticing the breath. You may notice as you're noticing the breath, sensations occur in the body. When sensations occur in the body, that's because of our interactivity with each other. How cool is that? Oftentimes I have people tell me when they're doing this, "Please only do this for 6 minutes at a time." And I'll say, "You know what, I'm doing this," and my wife pops in my mind, and then she's I don't know how long, but almost immediately, or sometimes soon, she's yelling, asking me if I'm doing something, or if she can help, or if I can help her with something. That's what we want to play with here. Noticing. If it's full already, if the breath is full of itself, and it's up high in the chest, and we're not noticing what it feels like with the tip of the nose. What we get to do is we get to notice that we can get hooked and unhooked, which we just demonstrated. You need to be unhooked to notice when you are hooked. If we're going to do anything, let's call it remote viewing or remote influence, it involves getting hooked in a slightly different way than what we're used to. It involves being aware of how we're hooked in a slightly different way compared to how we are used to. Allow yourself to play with that in this way. Like right now, I'm noticing the breath in the tip of my nose. Times when you don't want to do this, you don't want to consciously do this while you're driving. Take 6 minutes a day. You got 6 minutes. I'll guarantee you do, because I do. We all have the same amount of time every day. Money, who cares? We put so much emphasis and thought on money that we lose track of time. The amount of money you can experience in a lifetime varies tremendously from human to human. The amount of time that you get. If you live 70 years, you get 70 years, gang. And whether you're rich or poor, that's something we can definitely flirt with changing. So take the time to notice your breathing. So we live in a culture which is extremely visually oriented. And we'd never come home to kinesthetic. If you have the Kino game, if you have the Integrity set, or the Insider, you're well aware of how important kinesthetic can be. All three of those products focus on it differently, and give you different avenues to get there, and different ways to access and utilize the power of kinesthetic. In this little course so far, we're introducing this as well. Kinesthetic is the doorway to the present. If you're going to influence people, you have to do it through the present. If you're going to understand where people are now, you have to do it through the present. Besides, the present is here. I've had people say, well, what about traveling to the past or the future? Let's assume you may run into that. Cool. But where do you start from? And where do you end up at? In the present. So my present to you are the keys about noticing the present. In the Kino game, we used to ship these little wee blue balls out with it for people to touch so they could discover Kino. As you're noticing with the methodology we're presenting here, there's a lot of Kino here. And it's really, really important. Again, when I use the phrase touch appropriately, there's two things there. First is Kino, which is touch. And then there's Crazy Uncle Milton, which is appropriately. If we go too specific here, this is Shadow Scout technology. The Apache Scout has to do with specifics. Okay, if you have Apache Scout, you understand how we stress or focus on certain aspects of a sentence to gain specificity. The Shadow Scouts work with artful vagueness, just like Milton did. When we touch appropriately, again, I can only access so much data from the universe. The universe has much more data than I can access. Let's just assume that for now. Now, when we play with this, when we do this, and we access kinesthetic, and we touch appropriately, we're basically surrendering to a portion of the universe that knows what appropriate is. With the girl at the bar, I don't dictate what appropriateness is. I just come from the heart. The universe dictates what appropriateness is. So my intention is to touch, and I physically touch the bar. Her. Appropriately. I'm physically touching the bar while intending to touch her. Appropriately. To make it a little bit more accurate, I'm physically touching the bar while my intention is touching her appropriately. And notice that we're noticing the breathing again. There's no coincidence why when it shows people having connections in movies, some sort of loving connection, that time shifts. Whether it's a romantic loving connection, whether it's a guy and a girl falling in love, whether it's a mom saving the kid by lifting up the car, there's always time distortion. And the time distortion comes from a shift in noticing. And what I encourage you to do is to notice the breath, yet again, the tip of the nose, and work and play from there. So in the next CD, we're going to get more into the energy anatomy of this whole thing. Just give you some theory so you've got some hooks to hang your hats on. And we'll allow you to play some more. Again, I'm John Wingard. I thank you for playing. 724-963-1755. If you haven't gotten this directly from us, let us know, because we'd like to put you on our list so you can get other neat stuff from us. And also make sure that you have a legitimate product that is complete as well. And I thank you for your time. and I encourage you to play, to notice and to touch appropriately.